We've all made mistakes. Maybe you replied you too to the waiter who told you to enjoy your meal. Maybe you cut your own bangs. But don't feel too bad. Because throughout history, some of the world's most powerful leaders made blunders so monumentally stupid, they didn't just ruin a day, they ruined entire empires. From lethal ghost whisperers to sending wooden ships into a hurricane because God said so, today we're counting down the top 5 historical leader mistakes. Grab your popcorn and let's watch humanity's elite absolutely fumble the bag. Our first stop is the Khwarazmian Empire in 1218. Its ruler, Shah Ala-ad-Din Muhammad, was sitting pretty on a massive, wealthy trade hub. Meanwhile, next door, Genghis Khan was busy conquering most of Asia. But Genghis didn't want to fight the Shah. He wanted to trade. He sent a 500-camel diplomatic caravan full of gold, silk, and a message that basically said, "Hey, let's be business besties." Now, any normal person would look at Genghis Khan and think, "Yes, whatever you want, please don't turn my skull into a goblet." But the Shah? He suspected they were spies. So he had the governor of a border town seize the caravan and execute almost everyone. Genghis Khan was furious, but he gave the Shah one more chance. He sent 3 ambassadors to demand the governor be punished. The Shah's response? He shaved the ambassadors' beards and sent them back, and killed one for good measure. Pro tip for life: do not give Genghis Khan a haircutting incident. The Mongol invasion that followed was not just a war, it was an eviction notice from existence. Genghis brought over 100,000 men. They diverted rivers to wipe out towns. The Shah had to flee to a tiny island in the Caspian Sea, where he died, broke and exhausted, probably wondering if he should have just accepted the silk. Within a few years, the entire Khwarazmian Empire was completely obliterated. Poof, gone. All because one guy couldn't handle a diplomatic DM. Next up, let's visit 1588 Spain, where King Philip II decided he was sick of England and Queen Elizabeth I. So he built the Spanish Armada, the biggest, baddest fleet of ships the world had ever seen, a literal floating fortress. But a great fleet needs a great admiral. Unfortunately, the original admiral died, so King Philip picked the Duke of Medina Sidonia. The Duke was rich, noble, and had exactly 0 military or naval experience. In fact, he actively begged the king not to give him the job, writing letters saying he got seasick and didn't know anything about boats. King Philip's response? "Don't worry about it, bro. God is on our side. You'll figure it out." Spoiler alert, he did not figure it out. When the Armada met the English fleet, the English used fast, agile ships and clever fireship tactics. The Duke panicked. His lack of experience meant he couldn't adapt to the English strategy. But the real MVP of this blunder was the weather. A massive, catastrophic storm blew in, pushing the Armada into dangerous, uncharted northern waters. Without proper naval leadership to navigate the gale-force winds, ships crashed into the rocky coasts of Scotland and Ireland. Spain lost half their fleet and thousands of men. The invincible Armada was defeated by a guy who explicitly said he shouldn't be there, and a very angry Atlantic Ocean. Whew. Watching these historical figures ruin everything is exhausting. You know what isn't a mistake? Hitting that subscribe button and liking this video. Unlike the Duke of Medina Sidonia, you actually know what you're doing. Do it for the algorithm. Do it for historical preservation, or just do it so you don't curse your descendants. Back to the chaos. Let's head to the 19th century for a masterpiece in terrible communication. Welcome to 1854 and the Crimean War. The British military at the time was run by wealthy aristocrats who cared more about their uniforms looking crisp than, actual tactics. Enter Lord Raglan, the British commander. He was stationed high up on a hill, giving him an excellent view of the battlefield. He saw some Russian troops retreating and trying to steal some captured British artillery guns. He wanted his cavalry to stop them. So, he scribbled down an order. It said, "Advance rapidly to the front and prevent the enemy from carrying away the guns." Seems clear, right? Except the cavalry was down in the valley. They couldn't see what Raglan saw. When the messenger delivered the note, the cavalry commander asked, "Which guns?" The messenger vaguely waved his hand toward the valley ahead. But the only guns the cavalry could see were a different, massive, heavily fortified line of Russian artillery at the end of a mile-long valley. The cavalry commanders thought the order was insane. It was suicide. But because of British military etiquette, you didn't question orders. So, The Light Brigade, 600 men armed only with swords and lances, literally trotted directly into the mouth of a valley ringed by Russian cannons on 3 sides. It was a bloodbath. Cannonballs flew from the left, right, and front. Over 100 men died instantly, and the brigade was decimated in minutes. Public outrage back home was immediate. All because a guy on a hill wrote a vague text message and sent it via a guy who didn't point clearly. Write better emails, people. Coming in at number 2 is Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. Nicholas was a family man, but as a ruler, he was, let's say, easily overwhelmed. His young son and heir, Alexei, suffered from hemophilia, a terrible disease where the blood doesn't clot. The royal family was desperate for a cure. Enter Grigory Rasputin, a wandering Siberian monk who claimed to have mystical healing powers. He also looked like he hadn't showered since the Middle Ages. Miraculously, Rasputin actually managed to calm the boy down and stop his bleeding episodes. Because of this, the Tsar and his wife treated Rasputin like a holy savior. But then World War I started. Nicholas went to the front lines to command the army, leaving his wife in charge of the government. And who did his wife listen to? Rasputin. Rasputin started firing competent government ministers and replacing them with his own corrupt buddies. Public trust in the monarchy plummeted. People thought a creepy, hypnotic wizard was running the country. The Russian people were starving, the army was losing, and the royal palace smelled like Rasputin's unwashed robes. Nicholas ignored every single warning from his advisors to kick Rasputin out. By the time Rasputin was finally assassinated by angry nobles, it was too late. The damage was done. Public fury boiled over, leading straight to the Russian Revolution, ending the 300-year-old Romanov dynasty. Talk about a bad houseguest. And finally, the number 1 slot belongs to the most famous case of fatal arrogance in human history, Julius Caesar. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar was the undisputed dictator of Rome. He had conquered Gaul, defeated his rivals, and felt absolutely invincible. But people were getting nervous about his power. A famous soothsayer literally walked up to him and warned him to beware the Ides of March, which was March 15th. Then, the night before March 15th, his wife Calpurnia had a nightmare that Caesar was being murdered in her arms. She begged him on her knees not to go to the Senate the next day. Did Caesar listen? Nope, he decided his wife was just being emotional, and the soothsayer was just a crazy street guy. He was Julius Caesar. Who would dare touch him? To prove how unafraid he was, Caesar did something incredibly foolish. He dismissed his personal security detail. He walked into the Senate completely unguarded. As he sat down, a group of his closest, most trusted political allies surrounded him under the pretense of presenting a petition. Then, they pulled out daggers. Caesar was stabbed 23 times. His final moments were spent realizing that his arrogance had led him directly into a trap set by the very people he thought he controlled. So, what did we learn today? Listen to your wife, check your emails, don't hire people who get seasick to captain your navy, accept gifts from Mongols, and for the love of history, keep your security guard around. Which of these blunders do you think was the worst? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay smart, and we'll see you next time.